Hey guys, welcome back to the Fontana podcast. Today is podcast Q&A, and what that means is I'm not interviewing anybody, it's just me, myself and I. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to answer a few questions, well not a few, but I'm going to answer quite a few questions on questions that have been asked through Instagram message, through Facebook message, through current clients that I coach just now online. I get a handful of questions on a regular basis, and I feel that this podcast is a great way to share those answers to the people who listen to the podcast and who ask those questions after the podcasts have been made. So let's get right into it. So the first one is, how many miles do you run per week? And right now that's around 40 to 50 miles a week, just because I'm injured just now. If somebody's asking me what my peak mileage is and what I would like to achieve when I'm fully healthy and fully fit, that's probably anywhere around 110 to 115 miles a week. Would I say no to 120 miles a week? Probably not, but I'd say about 115 miles a week is where I'm probably topping out at through either 10k training or marathon training. And the next one is, how fast do I do my easy run? So, what pace am I sort of recovering at between those sessions? And that kind of varies. It's not a pace that I technically run at, and it's not certainly a heart rate that I run at either. It's more of a perceived exertion. So say I have a really big session on a Tuesday or a Friday and I have to go out and just do a recovery run. What I do is I run on fuel. So that fuel may be like 4 or 5 out of 10. And one day after a big session, it may be 7:30 mile pace and it feels about 4 or 5 out of 10 because I'm tired. But then there might be sessions that maybe never took a lot out the tank the day before, and going out and running 4 and 5 out of 10 is maybe around 6:45 to 6:30 mile pace. It kind of just depends, and what I do is I stick to that feeling and I don't gravitate towards sort of the 6 or the 7 or the 8 out of 10, because that's when I know that I'm starting to dig a little bit deeper than normal and I'm taking away from the quality of my session. Either I'm going to take away from the quality of going on to do a training session the day after the recovery run, or I'm going to take away the quality of the recovery in terms of recovering from the session I'd done previously, not allowing my physiology, my muscles, my energy systems to recover and replenish and refuel and recharge from that hard session. So then that can be a downward spiral leading into overtraining and leading into sort of burnout, and sometimes it can lead into injury as well. What's the longest distance you've run? Well, the longest distance I've ran is probably the marathon in Valencia. Cumulatively in one go, I have done a big training session before. Before the marathon, I think the furthest I ever ran before that was 24 miles. About 3 or 4, I think about 4 weeks out from the marathon, and that's a cumulatively without stopping. Maybe doing like a warm-up training session and a cool down. I think I probably went to about 26 miles in total that day as well. It was basically, a 3-mile warm-up, 10 miles steady, 10 miles at marathon pace, and then a 3-mile cool down. So again, another 26-mile day. So probably the marathon has been the longest distance that I've run in one go without stopping. The number 4 is, what supplements do you take to train hard? I don't really take supplements to train hard. I take supplements to recover, to be honest. If you're taking, informed sport choice supplements, you're not taking them to train harder, you're probably taking them to recover better. And with that is the company that I'm sponsored by is STa&x. So STa&x sponsors a whole host of top athletes. I know that there's different tiers, and I'm not on the elite athlete tier. I'm kind of sort of, national level athlete. I'm looking to aspire to be in the higher tiers. So they've got the Chris O'Hare, Scottish, athlete, GB athlete. They've got Neil Gourley from Oregon Track Club as well, and they sponsor the whole Oregon Track Club team. That's the team with the green vests, not the black or the red. but they also do sponsor the Bowerman Track Club, the guys with the red vests as well. And then just a whole host of CrossFitters and individual athletes as well. I think George Mills, the British 1500 metre runner, they also sponsor him as well. So they sponsor a whole host of top athletes. I'm just super happy to be a part of the brand. What supplements do I take from X Endurance is the protein, just a normal protein powder. It's got some carbs in it. It's got some lactate in it as well, because that's a fuel that your body uses to a certain degree. Like when we're doing tempo running, you're actually buffering and accumulating lactic acid at the exact same time. So you're actually using it as fuel as well as accumulating it and trying to buffer it through the blood. So your muscles do use lactate as fuel to a certain degree, as well as your glucose, as well as, right at the very start, if you're sprinting or if you're doing powerful lifting and, your creatine phosphate system. And then when you get into the marathon and ultra marathons, then you're using your fat stores as well. By no means, unless you're doing proper ultra distances where you're going for a extremely long period of time, and that's what I mean in bypass, sort of your 3-4 hours of running, you will not go into any sort of protein breakdown until you're in sort of starvation mode or being catabolic. So if anybody uses protein powders before workouts, it doesn't really give you any sort of performance enhancing benefits. It doesn't give you any energy. Protein's a last resort where your body eats at itself when it's got no more carbs and it's got no more fat to break down and use as fuel. The other supplements I take is the immune boost as well. So, it's the multivits with the minerals and things like that. So it's you take 3 tablets in the morning, 3 tablets at night, and it gives you, this loads of, broad spectrum of vitamins and minerals to keep your immune system strong, to fight off, sort of illnesses, coughs, colds, corona, hopefully. And then the joint supplement as well, just now because of the posterior tibialis injury that I have. I'm really trying to do everything I can to, one, protect that injury, not let it happen again, and make those tendons and ligaments really, really strong and robust for the future when I try and build that mileage back up so I don't break down. And then the hydration as well. So they've got loads and loads of stuff on there. There's X Endurance, and then there's X Endurance EU, and that's the one for Europe. So if you're listening to this and you're in Europe, then X Endurance EU is for you. And that rhymed there. And then if you are in the United States, then it's X Endurance. And I forgot about Tin Man Elite as well. I saw that they're sponsored by it also. So, I think it's a brand that doesn't have this sort of same exposure in Europe as Science and Sport, as maybe Power Bar, these sort of popular or bulk powders and things like that. But the great thing about X Endurance is, like Science and Sport, is that it's batch tested, so it's informed sport choice tested. So it means that whatever you're taking, that it's not going to impact on any drug tests you're taking through competition through WADA or the IOC. So it's meaning that you can take it and you trust that product's not get anything that's going to contaminate or degrade your performances in any way. So it's all good stuff. The favourite mileage shoe, that is the Pegasus 37 just now. Before the Nike Pegasus 37, it actually used to be the Adidas Boost. I think it was a Solar Boost, and I switched between the neutral one and the Solar Boost ST, because the ST means stability, but there was more cushioning in the stability one. It was a little bit more expensive, but it didn't actually have that much. It didn't have like a big supported, plate put in it or anything. It was just a small medial thing that was at the back of the heel. And because I'm quite a toy runner, the ST had a lot more forefoot cushioning. So it just felt a lot comfier to put my foot through the sort of trainer, pushing into the ground and then coming back up. So it was the Solar Boost ST before the Nike Pegasus 37s. As soon as I put my foot in them, the lightweight, They feel I think there's like a sort of, there's an air pocket in the front as well now instead of just in the back the way it used to be. They've redesigned that shoe to make it better for 4-foot runners also. So it's a really comfortable shoe, and that's something that I really enjoy. I've got loads and loads of pairs of them because I go through them like, nobody's business, especially when you're back up at 100 miles a week. Always change your shoes every sort of 500, 600 miles. The closer towards 500 the better, so that you can keep that responsiveness and keep that cushioning and protect those joints, protect those feet, protect those sort of the lower limb area from any pesky, always say invest in your shoes, because the money you're going to scrimp out in your shoes is the money you're probably going to put back in and then some, if you then need to get a physio bill and you need to go and see the physio a couple of times. So please don't scrimp out in your shoes. Make sure that you are changing your shoes. I know that Strava, I know that Garmin, if you add your shoe to the app, it'll tell you how many miles you're doing in it. So I really recommend doing something like that if you can't keep track of how many miles you do in your shoe, or you've had your shoe for say 6, 7, 8, 9 months. It's probably time that it needs to go, and you need to get yourself a shoe that's got better energy return and foam and cushioning to help protect those feet, because those are the first things that hit the ground. And coming from somebody who has, say, I've got a couple of broken toes, I've had plantar fasciitis quite a lot. Now I've got the post-tib problem. It's, even though I do change my shoes regularly, these things, I'm trying to make sure I'm decreasing the percentage of injury by making sure I replace those shoes in a certain period of time. Because the reason I got plantar fasciitis the first time was because I wore these Nike shoes. I think it was like the Structure STa&x at the time. I wore them for such a long time that I just, I eroded the rubber sole. I went right into the foam. So basically, I think the shoes were red at the time. It was a red Structure STa&x. I went through the black rubber and I went through into the red dyed sole. And then from the red dye sole, I was starting to go into the sort of white cottony string stuff that was in the sole somewhere. And before I knew it, trying to scrimp out, because I wanted to keep holding off to get a pair of trainers, I ended up getting injured, and then the physio bills cost more than the pair of trainers that I could have just bought to keep myself injury free. So trying to decrease the amount of, basically the percentage of you getting injured is a, just now it's all about staying healthy. It's about staying injury free, staying consistent. And if one of those things is to make sure that you keep on top of the mileage that you're putting in your trainer and in your sole, to make sure that you're always protecting those feet, then it's something that I think you should do to help you, maybe take away those lower limb injuries. Favourite racing shoe? Got to be the Vaporfly. It's got to be. Actually, for Christmas, I got the Alpha Fly. I got the Alpha Fly for Christmas, but I've not tested it out yet. I don't want to test it out yet because I want to save that baby for when races commence after COVID, or if I can get an elite entry to a race during COVID, like sort of reduced numbers, that's when I'm going to put that baby on. But I can't wait to test drive that. It looks amazing. I'm about 7 foot tall in it, so I think there's a placebo effect in that foam, where if you're a foot taller, then obviously you're more confident. You walk higher, you walk taller. Who knows? But no, it's a great comfy shoe that I'm looking to race in. But before, I can't really comment on that one, so I've not raced in that or ran in that. But the Vaporfly is the one just now. So the one just before the Alpha Fly, that one is one of my most favourite racing shoes, and I train in it only in specific training sessions as well, if that's mimicking sort of race pace stuff. So my cadence, my form, the tempo that I'm running at is all going to mimic how I'm actually going to run on race day. I'll wear that trainer because that's the thing that I want to make sure that everything is consistent across the board, and that my body's used to the feeling, my feet are used to the feeling, I don't get any blisters, or I don't maybe get a calf strain, or a foot, my foot gets tight or anything like that by not getting in the shoe, and then only getting in the shoe for race day. You don't really know maybe how your body will respond to a different stack height, different heel height, all these sort of things, and just a little bit of attention to detail. And yeah, Nike Vaporfly, it is the one. Favourite distance to run? The 10k. The 10k is my favourite distance. Like I must admit, The 5K is, back when I moved up from the 1500 to the 5K, the 5K was my favourite. But then when I started training more for the 5K and maybe neglecting a bit of speed work that you still have to do, even being a 5K runner, I think that the 5K pace was actually starting to get a little bit harder to maintain because I've become more aerobically stronger, but the leg speed maybe I wasn't quite I wasn't training properly for leg speed, so I wasn't doing sessions a little bit quicker than 5K pace because I was maybe scared that actually that's probably the insecurity of doing speed work, reducing your mileage and then not hitting that big number at the end of the week was something that maybe made me feel a bit insecure. So then maybe that's why I kind of steered away from the smaller, sharper sessions, which was inhibiting me having a better running economy, better biomechanics at sub-maximal speeds. So maybe that, like me coming to that sort of conclusion right now, that's probably the reason why the 5K was getting tougher and tougher to do, because all I wanted to do was mileage, longer sessions, harder sessions, suffer for longer, me thinking I was going to get better. But ultimately, at the end of the day, right now, I'm kind of going through a phase where I'm questioning everything that I've done for a while in terms of, why do I need to run as long? Why do I need to run as far? Why do I need to, go to 100 or 110, 115 miles a week as a 5K, 10K runner? You're only on the track for anywhere between 14 and 29 minutes at my level or faster. So you're like, why do you want to do 12 to 13 hours of running a week to be good for 13 minutes and change, or 14 minutes and change, or 28 minutes high, 29 minutes low? Why do you need to be going to 13 hours or 14 hours of training? So I'm when you're injured, when a good quote is, losing creates change. And I've been losing for quite a while just now. That's frustrating, and that's another thing that's frustrating in its own behalf. But not getting success is meaning that it's not that you're failing. It's just it's a feedback loop there saying that you never quite get it right this time. Maybe try a different approach. But there's been time to time I'll maybe try a different approach, but it still goes wrong. So I'm still figuring it out, even at 30 years old, and being national champion and British bronze medalist, being in America, all these sort of things, like for an American scholarship, like even though I've had some success, it's not been consistent success. So I've still not found that consistent formula. So favourite distance to race is definitely the 10K. I love the 10K. 25 laps of the track. When you're fit, when you're strong, when you're ready to rock and roll, when you've tapered properly, you've prepared properly, I just don't think there's a better. I don't think there's a better race than 25 laps on the track, and doing it at Highgate as well. So the British Championship race at Highgate, the 10K is phenomenal. It's just, it puts athletics in a different dimension. It puts athletics in a different light. It attracts people who might not necessarily be into running, but because of the activities that are going on around the track, not just in the track, it's just awesome. It's just awesome to be a part of. It's a good buzz, and it's something that I feel that athletics need to keep doing to keep moving forward and engage with a different demographic. I know that fundamentally athletics and athletes and older coaches want to keep athletics at their roots, in terms of back in the day, old school stuff. But if we keep living back there and never moving forward, the world keeps moving forward, and if we want to stay back there, then we're going to get left behind. And I feel that we need to move forward with evolution in society and catering towards different demographics and keeping people engaged and excited about something as simple and pure as just one foot in front of the other. Try and get more eyes on that track would be amazing if more events like Highgate could happen. Hardest training session. Ooh, that's a tough one, because I kind of look at that and go, they're usually always hard just now. Like when I'm getting back from injury, I feel fat, I feel out of shape, I feel heavy. My quads really don't, I feel like I can't pick my quads up off the ground. I'm breathing really heavy. I feel exhausted after a couple of reps. So, hardest training sessions usually for me would be like literally right now, getting back from injury. And everything just feels as hard as the next thing, whether it's 400 meter reps, whether it's 30 minutes of tempo running, or hill reps. It just all feels hard. I can't my legs can't differentiate, my breathing can't differentiate between that pace, this intensity, that volume. It all kind of just feels like it's mushing together just now until you start finding that form, and then you can start to understand that 400s are going to be at this pace, threshold's going to be at this pace, your hill reps are going to be at that pace. This is a pain you're going to feel there, this is a pain you're going to feel there, this is a pain you're going to feel there. So I would say the hardest training sessions are usually done at the very, very start of like your injury. But in terms of, I know where you're getting at, like what sessions probably maybe hurt me the most is there's definitely a few. So if I was training for a 5k, I would tell you that me doing 4 times a kilometre off a 400 jog recovery that usually lasts anywhere between 3 and 4 minutes, taking 3 to 4 minutes recovery to jog around the 400 a lap of the track, and doing those Ks at around 2:40, 2 minutes and 40 seconds or faster. Then taking a lap jog recovery after those 4 times a K, and then doing 5 times 300 metres with 100 jog recovery, no longer than a minute recovery, and running them anywhere between 46 and 43 seconds that was a hard training session for me, mentally as well, to just get my head in that I'm going to be needing to dial in and make sure from the time I start my watch on that start line on the track that I had to be focused from the get-go. I had to get out, had to make sure I was maintaining leg speed and not switch off. That's probably the toughest one there. For the 10k is probably something like 5 times a mile off a 400 jog recovery again, so about 3 minutes, and the second last mile, so doing them at 10k pace, where that might be like 70 seconds, so 440 miles, 5 times a mile at 440 mile pace. 1, 2 and 3 are at 440. Then the fourth one, the second last one, is at 430 pace, and then you go back up to 440 pace. So that's probably one of my hardest 10k track sessions. And you can see these are all with long recovery, things that I don't like to do on a consistent basis, because I feel when you take longer recovery, 1, the session's probably a little bit shorter, and 2 is it's getting right out of my comfort zone. I would rather do 6 times a mile, 8 times a mile off of a minute to 90 seconds recovery and run at, say, 5 minute mile pace. That's where sort of my happy place is, and that's where I could operate day in, day out. But sometimes you need to get out of that comfort zone to get to where you want to get to in life, especially in athletics. So again, as I chat through these Q&As, I'm sort of coming to answers myself. So this is actually quite a cool exercise that I'm doing right here. So hopefully, this has been informative and you're staying with me. It's a lot, I'm probably giving you a lot of information, but hopefully this is valuable information for you to then put into your training as well, for your 5Ks, your 10Ks, your marathon. And then the hardest training session for the marathon is 3 mile warm up, 10 miles at 5:30 pace. So 10 miles steady, then taking a 3 minute recovery, putting on my racing shoes and doing 7 times a mile off of 90 seconds, almost close to 10k pace, 3 mile cool down. So that's 23 miles in total of just work. But then all the jogging in between the recovery makes it I think it was almost like a 25 mile session, and it was one of those ones where it made me feel like an absolute demon. It made me feel amazing about myself. It made me feel like I was on cloud nine and I was untouchable and unbreakable. But it's one of those ones where you need to time it properly within your week, or you're in such a volatile position. It's kind of like a finely tuned guitar string where, just the littlest, fall or whatever is just going to tweak the string, and it's not going to be playing the same notes again. What happened during that week was everything went well. Everything was amazing. This was on the Friday. I can still remember this was on the Friday. On the Tuesday, I done 12 times a kilometre off a minute at marathon pace, working down to half marathon pace. And then on the Sunday, I done a 20-mile long run. And I think I did put in about 120 miles that week. And it fed my ego, it fed my mindset, it fed that warrior, toughness that I have when I'm fit and I'm healthy and I'm good to go. It was feeding the insecurity of, and I had to do more to be better. And the weeks afterwards it just felt like I was running on like sort of mud instead of road. It was just, my central nervous system must have been completely shot. My energy systems must have been completely shot. Glycogen completely depleted. Find it really hard to sort of keep flowing into the next marathon training session or the next half marathon training session or the next 10k training session. I found it really, really hard to actually absorb that week, that training session, and bounce on to the next ones. And that's where I think it left me open to catching bronchitis before the Valencia Marathon, and it all going a little bit tits up, to be honest. So that was my faux pas, because when a programme gets set for me, say it is, that week that I just described for you, even though on the Sunday, so I done the session on the Friday, and even on the Sunday, my legs are from mile 3 or 4, I was looking at my Garmin thinking, this is going to be a long day. This is going to be a long day today. And from 15 miles into the run, I had to switch my Garmin from the total number of volume and the total time. I had to then switch it to the split, the mile split time. So then when it split off to 16, it was just going 0.01, 0.02, and I was just going mile by mile and staying in the present to get me through the suffering of the 20 miles. And I can still remember I was out with a group of athletes, and a couple of them started pushing the pace, and here's me, I'm going, well, I just covered this session, and the Friday session I was 450 average for the 7 times a mile after 10 miles at 5:30 pace. I'm a beast, I'm a boss, nobody can drop me just now. We're running at 6-minute mile pace, big whoop. I can do this for 23 miles with my eyes shut. Yeah, I can when I'm fresh, but I couldn't. I just overstepped the boundary, and I could just feel like heart rate was high, I was suffering, but I didn't want to show face. I just wanted to keep digging and show them that I'm tough and I'm strong, and I wanted to show myself that I'm tough and strong through insecurities and not securities. So, sorry I rambled on there, but I feel like these are good lessons to learn. Everybody wants to know everybody's hardest session, but usually you're doing your hardest session within an easier type of week. You're not doing it within the midst of, massive monumental sessions in and around that. That's your main focus. And the other, either the other one session or the 2 sessions or that one session in long run are supplementary. They're basically the cement between the bricks to hold that session together and keep building that wall and that good foundation. So I know everybody wants to know the hardest training sessions that I've done, and that's the perceived wise, that's mine. I would necessarily make sure that you have an easier week leading into it, and maybe an easier couple of days to 4 or 5 days out of it, so that your body recovers and absorbs the session. Last one, number 9. How would you train for a 10k race? I've got how would I train for the 5k, how would I train for the marathon, how would I train for the 10k, but I thought, for any 10k guys on there, I coach a lot of marathon runners. I don't really coach a lot of 10k runners. I've got a few, but I don't coach a lot, so I think that this one, I would like to share my knowledge here with the 10k guys that are out there. So first of all, the sort of billboard answer that everybody tells you is training is specific to the individual. Yeah, we all know that. What do I feel you need to do to be a great 10k runner? Personally, like if this is to be a great 10k, if you want to break 30 minutes for the 10k, which is 3 minutes per kilometre with no recovery, all right, so it's 3 minutes per kilometre, it's 4:48 mile pace, it's 72 seconds a 400 metre lap, and it's 36 seconds per 200 metre splits. So what you've got to do is like I've just done there. It's 4:48 mile pace, it's a 15-minute 5k, back to back with no recovery. How do you get there? You start breaking it down. So you're overwhelmed with a big, massive goal of sub 30 for 10k. How do you now break that down into manageable chunks that you don't get overwhelmed and kind of get paralysis by analysis? You take it all the way down to it's 36 seconds for 200 metres, and you start building from there. So I would your Monday to Sunday, so Monday, easy running, anywhere between 6 to 12 miles, depending how tired you are and what your sort of mileage is like. So 6 miles being around, sort of 42 to 45 minutes, 7-minute mile pace to 7:30 pace, nice and chilled. If you like to do more, 8, 10, 12 miles, if you want to do 12 miles and an 8 mile and 4 mile, or a 6 mile and 6 mile split in a day, perfect. Tuesday, your session, I would look to do, I usually set the shorter session on the Tuesday and the longer session on the Friday. So the short session could be anything in regard to a track workout. And with that, it could be 8 times a kilometre off a minute recovery. If you want to move a little bit faster, then you can do 8 times a kilometre off 90 seconds recovery. So you can maybe do a K, take a 200 metre jog recovery, and then do your next K. So you can keep moving, keep constant, and keep aerobic, as well as dipping into that sort of slightly top end aerobic zone, but low end anaerobic zone, because you never want to be dipping into anaerobic territory until that last sort of, literally like last mile to last K, because if you're sitting anaerobic any further out, it's a long way home to hold that sort of 72 second pace all the way to the line. So anything like your sort of 8 by K, 10 times 800. I know I'm saying this is a short session. It could maybe be 1 mile tempo, 4 times 400 metres, 1 mile tempo, 4 times 400 metres, 1 mile tempo, 4 times 400 metres, 6 miles of work, but all broken down, loads and loads of recovery in there as well. You can do 25 400s off a minute recovery and run them faster than race pace. So there's race pace specific stuff and there's faster than race pace stuff. So what I would say with that is there's a bullseye, red dot, you're throwing the arrow. 3 minute per K is the red arrow. That is like specific. That's as specific as you can get towards your race pace. When you move away from that, you're getting a little bit slower. And what I say is when you go faster than that, you're moving away from it, but you're moving inside the red zone territory, because you do need to do some stuff that's a little bit slower and longer and a little bit faster and shorter. The stuff that I was talking about that I kind of don't do, but I neglect a little bit more than the red bullseye and the stuff out with, because that's where you can get the most volume done in those areas if you're looking to achieve that distance in that time. So, say for talking sake, a shorter session could be something like 6 times a K off a 400 jog recovery, not running it at 5k pace, but running it quicker than 10k pace. You could do stuff like 10 600s, you could do the 10 800 session, taking a little bit longer recovery, so taking about 90 second recovery. You could do split Ks, where you could do 600 and 400 and do 6 to 8 sets of 600 400. These sort of things as well. You can break that K down and run a little bit faster in that K also. So there's loads and loads of things that you can do on the Tuesday for the track workout. On the long day, I would say it's a tempo run day, it can be a progression run. 15 minutes easy, 15 minutes steady, 15 minutes hard, 15 minutes easy. So that's a full 60 minutes there of aerobic work. Or you can put it in sort of split tempo. 2 miles tempo, 1 mile tempo, 2 miles tempo, 1 mile tempo, getting 6 miles of quality tempo work, but taking, maybe like 90 seconds to a minute recovery in between those reps. You can do 2 times 3 miles, 3 times 2 miles, 4 times 2 miles if you wanted as well, going all the way up to 8 miles of volume. That's probably, for 10k running, I'd say that's probably the maximum you want to go, is about sort of 8 miles worth of work in your threshold, because any longer than that, then you're kind of, that red bullseye of like 4:48 mile pace, 3 minutes per k, if you start moving up into sort of your 10 mile threshold, your pace is going to come down as well. So neuromuscularly, energy system wise, you're moving a wee bit further away, further field than what you need to achieve the desired outcome and the desired goal. So the slower you run, the further you're actually getting away from the red bullseye. And people say, right, I might not be getting this just now. And how I explain it to clients and how I explain it to people who want to understand what you mean by the red bullseye is, so say I've got an athlete that's wanting to run 4 minutes for the mile, so 60-second splits, well, it's kind of like 59 point, but basically if we go 4 laps, mile, 4 minutes, don't want to run or break 4 minutes for the mile, right? So your red bubble is 59.9 or 60, we'll go 60 just to call it, round it up, 60 seconds. Now, if I was to give an athlete 50 miles a week at 7 minute mile pace, so the red bullseye's here, 60 seconds, which is 4 minute mile pace, and I give them stuff at 7 minute mile pace or 6 minute mile pace, it's moving right away from the dartboard, like you're off the dartboard where it's not meeting the demands of the event. So then we go, right, okay, I'll give you 100 miles a week at 7 minute mile pace or 6 minute mile pace. Will you still be able to break 4 minutes for the mile? No. I'll give you 110 miles a week at 6 minute mile pace to break 4 minutes for the mile. Will you be able to do it? No. The reason being, it's so far away from the energy system and the demands of the event. So if you kind of look at it from a dartboard, when you go to throw that arrow, the further you move a field into the desired pace, as you're getting closer to the red bullseye and closer and actually on meeting the demands of your event. That's what I mean by that sort of the red bullseye, and moving further afield and make sure you're staying within a relative zone of the energy systems, because then if you're way out in terms of like your sessions and things, and it's not going to get the desired effect for you physiologically to get you that 30 minute 10k goal. That's where then you'd be looking to do like the 5k, or you'd be looking to the half marathon or the marathon, because then it's getting closer towards those sort of paces. So stuff like that. Hopefully that I didn't ramble too much on about that. But what we're on 37 minutes. I'll give you another couple of minutes. A wee Brucey bonus, Since it's COVID and I've got nothing to do, I'm going to chat to you. As we move on to that, I've asked a lot of athletes when I interview them, tips in coping through COVID, and I feel that there's a lot of stuff we can do, especially as runners, as athletes, if maybe other non-athletes, mums, dads out there who are just looking for some ideas because they're bored, climbing the walls, maybe beating yourself up, all these sort of things. I would say, first thing is, you do have to go out and exercise. If you can't exercise outside, exercise inside. Do online YouTube classes or Amazon Prime. I know they've got some new sort of exercise yoga classes there. I do online classes as well. Sign me up. If you've got a treadmill, if you've got a bike, if you get some weights, if you get bottles of water, if you've got some bottles of juice, whatever it is, bottles of wine, bottles of beer, pick them up and start using them, right? So be resourceful with the resources you have around you. That's what I'll say. First and foremost is, do you lack resources or do you lack resourcefulness? And that's from Tony Robbins, mindset coach, and I think he's also coaching Conor McGregor and his mindset as well, which I hope Conor McGregor to win against Dustin Poirier too. That's my prediction. He says, do you lack resources or do we lack resourcefulness? And ultimately, more often than not, we lack resourcefulness because we have everything at our fingertips. Right now in this environment, we have the Wi-Fi, we have the data, we have the phones, we have the all this technology, we do have weighted items around about us. We just don't have the desire to be resourceful with it. That's ultimately it. Do you lack knowledge or do you lack motivation? You lack motivation because we all know what to do. We all know what not to eat and what not to drink or what not to do. but we do it anyway. But it's trying to find things around the house that you can do resourcefully to help you with your mental well-being and your physical well-being. The next thing is, if you are feeling tired, like say for talking sake, if you've been training a couple of days in a row or a week, 7 days in a row, whatever it is, and you're tired, don't be afraid to take a day off and don't beat yourself up for that. All right. So even me just now going through an injury, I'm doing 6 days on, 1 day off. The reason for that is your body needs to recover. It's telling you it's sore, or it's telling you it's tired for a reason. The same way it tells you it's hungry, or thirsty, or happy, or sad, or whatever it is, or sleepy. Your body's a great system for telling you when it either needs things or it doesn't need things. It'll tell you, it'll let you know. It's got an inbuilt system for that. So trying to get in touch with that system that you have, like understanding, are you tired, are you sad, are you happy, are you frustrated? Do you need to maybe, do you feel like you've stagnated as a human being? Do you need more growth? So do you need to start reading books? Do you need to go maybe do a wee online course, online university, listen to a TED talk, listen to something that will serve you in a positive light and in a positive way to help this be stimulated and help you create growth again. I tell that to a lot of my clients, like when some of them they feel frustrated when they're scrolling through Facebook all the time, they're scrolling through Instagram all the time, Twitter, Snapchat, on Netflix, on Amazon Prime. They get a little bit of a dead spot in terms of they're kind of getting fed up now. They're getting bored of just watching the TV and sitting on the couch, and then they want to do something, but they turn the TV off, they plan to want to go and do something, and all of a sudden they feel too tired. They feel actually quite exhausted from sitting down all day and just feeding that sort of, negative sort of mindset in terms of not serving you in a positive way. Sometimes it does. I'm not saying that don't do that at all. I'm just saying like little and often is good, but just not over consuming it. That's where it can actually lead to sort of emotional fatigue, and that's where you think, man, I feel really tired. I can't actually be bored going out training anymore. And then you look outside, it's dark, you had all these plans, you had all this, and then you get decision fatigue and you don't do anything. That's probably like a high percentage of the population, not just in the UK, in the entire world. Get overwhelmed, overthink, decision fatigue, get exhausted, don't do anything. That's what I was saying about the 10k. Break it down into small chunks. So, instead of saying, I'm going to go out and, walk or run or cycle for 60 minutes, just try 5. And then when 5 goes, you go, that was easy. I'll do 10. I'll just do 10. Do you know what? I'm probably going to go to 20, but I'll call it a day at 20. And at least you've done 20 minutes instead of thinking, I'm going to shoot for an hour. I do 0, then I feel shit about myself. And that's usually the sort of emotional tailspin that we're going on as human beings. It's just try to, press the stop button in that and do a little bit of something, because it's better than a lot of nothing. And lost my train of thought, but yeah, Netflix, don't binge watch it, because what you want to do is serve yourself in a positive way. And when you actually exercise it, for some weird reason, and I don't know why, but the endorphins and the serotonin and all these feel-good feelings after you exercise, you expend energy, but you feel even more energetic. You've burnt calories, but you feel amazing. You feel so accomplished. But you don't get that when you sit down and watch Netflix and Amazon Prime or scroll through Facebook or Instagram. You actually feel a bit like worthless. You feel a bit shit about yourself because there's some guy on there that's, driving this or in this house or get this physique or whatever anybody like is emotionally attached to. And some ladies are maybe got on there looking at other chicks that are that are in leggings and a crop top and stuff and feeling rubbish about themselves because they maybe want to look like that, but they feel that they can't look like that, and it's just an emotional fuckfest. And that's where you just need to put that down. If it doesn't serve you, you either you limit your time on it, you delete the people that make you feel bad about yourself. Delete the people. On Facebook and on Instagram, I have deleted people who are moaning about COVID and are very negative just now, because I just right now don't want it and don't need it in my life, because right now I'm trying to keep myself together and my team together as well. So I need to make sure that I'm serving myself in positive ways, and if I can identify things that are actually going to piss me off, are going to take me out of my zone or my flow, they're gone. They may come back in, when when all this blows over and we've got nothing to moan about, but at this moment in time, they're deleted. So that's maybe another tactic you can do. Delete the people that don't serve you in a positive light. The next thing is maybe follow people who do serve you in a positive light, like inspire you, like maybe like motivational pages, motivational people that you like to listen to or watch, that fill you full of that enthusiasm, full of motivation, full of discipline. They want to go out and be better for yourself. So using it in a more positive light. The next thing is you could delete the app altogether, but sometimes they're short-term fixes. I would say, because if you're going to use it anyway, just try and use it to the best of your abilities. The next thing is making sure you're eating right as well. This is so, right now we've got so much time. If we're furloughed or we're off work, we've got no excuse actually to home make and batch cook some stuff, whether it's soup, whether it's, spaghetti bolognese, whether it's fajitas, whether it's lasagna, whether it's, it is like sort of a pasta dish, it's a risotto dish, it's a stir fry or whatever it is. We've actually got no excuse not to go get those items and batch cook and put them in little Tupperware boxes and stick them in the fridge or the freezer and pull them out when we need it, to eat well and serve our body and serve our mind. We don't want to be putting, we are not just mentally consuming shit, but we're actually physically consuming shit as well. So when you're putting those two poor components together, you put shit in, you're going to get shit out. It's as simple as that. So maybe trying to eat a little bit healthier, have a little bit more water, keeping your mind and your body refreshed and energised. Maybe having a few extra shots of espresso like I do, make you feel happy. It's a happy drug. So doing stuff like that, like trying to do things that will serve you in a positive way, that will make you do positive things. And one of those things is actually giving your body the nourishment and the energy and the nutrients that it needs and it desires, to make it feel less lethargic, to make it want to exercise, to have your mind thinking in a more clearer and a more positive way. You could meditate, you could do yoga, you could cycle, you could run, you could walk, you could swim in the canal. I don't know, more power to you. You could go fishing, you could play golf at public parks. You could, again, limiting the time, but you could play games. You can play, whether it's a board game or whether it's a PlayStation game or an Xbox. I said on the Chris O'Hare podcast that I was playing the Nintendo Switch and playing Zelda, but I limit myself to 1 hour of total time at any point in the day. That's it. Sometimes I get there and sometimes I don't. I just, within half an hour, I'm good. But it's 60 minutes and that's it. And making sure that, and sometimes I might use it as a reward system. So if I do all my client calls, getting in touch with my clients, if I've done a really good online class, done my programs, then I'll kick back for half an hour, 40 minutes, play Zelda, all good. That's given me a decompression to then get me back into my focus again, because sometimes when I'm operating at that high frequency all the time, I can maybe get a bit ratty, can get a bit grumpy, can get a bit angry. And then also that stress, the sort of psychosocial aspect of injuries. Sometimes it can lead from stress and cortisol, high cortisol levels in the body. And when you're constantly working and not switching off, that's also a bad thing as well. Books that I could recommend, I've got down here, I've just finished Cadell Evans. I'm now reading Mark Cavendish, his book, and I don't know what, but I'm really gravitating towards cyclists just now. Whether it's Cadell Evans, I've read Mark Cavendish, Bradley Wiggins, Jans Voigt, Tyler Hamilton. There's quite a lot that I've really, like, cycling books that I really enjoy, and I think it's because of that whole long distance and suffering. I can really relate to it, and the cyclists always talk about, suffering on Mont Ventoux, or, in the Vuelta a España or the Giro d'Italia. They talk about the suffering, the pain, whether it's the weather or whether it's, they're getting dropped by a certain, group of teammates, or in the peloton, and you just talk about grinding it out, and sometimes, you know, the falls, the injuries, the, you know, years of maybe turmoil, but then they stay in the game and they flourish eventually. They just keep going, day after day, keep getting it done, even through the knocks and the doubts and the haters and people telling them to quit. They just keep going, and eventually they get where they want to go. And that's one of the good things about the Cadell Evans book, is he only wins the Tour de France once in his whole career, but he started BMX cycling when he was literally 13 years old, and he didn't win the Tour de France until he was 32 years old or 33 years old, and he only won it once, and the rest of the times he's coming second to dopers. So, you know, it's just a really nice book for coming from a refreshing background. It's actually quite a moving book as well, coming from somebody like myself who maybe hasn't quite made it to the highs yet at 30 years old, but knows that there's still time. There's still time there to make it. David Goggins is a great book. Rich Roll is another good book. Ant Middleton's books, Zero Negativity, First Man In, and he's got another, Fear Bubble is another good book. Kevin Hart, Can't Make This Up, and quite a lot of people have already got these books, but The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by Mark Manson. But his second book's really, really good as well. It's called The World Is Fucked, a book about hope. Talks about, you know, basically, I think I've mentioned it in the podcast with Josh, but the more we seek comfort, the more severe suffering feels, because we're kind of going, well, life's not supposed to be that way. We're supposed to be comfortable and happy all the time, and technically, yeah, you're supposed to be happy a portion of the time, but that's why we've got all these emotions. We get sad, we get excited, we've got happy, we've got, you know, frustrated, we've got angry. We can't just be feeling one emotion all the time. It's just illogical. So what he tries to do is help you break it down and understand that actually a small percentage of your time you'll be happy, but the most of the time you are going to be struggling, because you're going to be struggling to what? Get to that side. So it's a really cool book. Other things you could do: start a business you've always wanted, start arts and crafts that you've always wanted to do, spend more time with your children, your other half, write a book, write a blog, go wild, you know. So there's all these things I just thought I would share with you before I round it up and say bye. So bye.